in 2014, I entered the Milton Keynes Marathon, which is horrendously boring. I have to admit, it's not the prettiest of marathons, but it's flat. And I was a little bit cocky that I trained myself. I didn't follow a training plan. And in my naivety, I thought doing long runs at marathon pace to get under 3:30 was the right thing to do. And in my mind, it just made sense. If I can run 18, 19 miles at 7:30, 7:45 a mile, then I can do it for 26. And I still remember the feeling of seeing, I saw my parents at about mile 5 and I was flying. And I remember sort of, again, feeling arrogant. I gave them a smile, almost like this is going to be easy. And then I got to mile 20 and I hit the wall. And when you hit the wall with 6 miles to go, you're in a lonely place. And I ended up missing 3:30 by 1 minute, 52 seconds, I think it was. And still to this day, my wife said, when I crossed the line, it's the worst you see me look, that I was just dead. And I don't know, that was it. I didn't enter another marathon for 4 years. I don't think I did a half marathon. I don't like 10Ks. So my running was pretty much just running with my wife. I wasn't a club runner. It was just ticking over really as a bit of a fitness thing. In terms of doing another long distance, that wasn't until 2018, I think.
So just quickly, let's pick up on that, because that's something I've talked about recently. Hitting the wall at 20 miles. So I've been there and done that. I did it at 17 miles in my first marathon. You know, completely wheels came off and everything. Anyone who's been there, if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. But that 20-mile point in a recent conversation has become really interesting for me in marathon running, because the wall, I call it the 20-mile cliff.
Yeah.
Call it the 20-mile cliff is because if you look at anyone that I've seen in the last sort of couple of years do marathons, and you look at, say, their Strava or their Garmin analysis, whatever they use, it's been really good and really consistent to that point, and then it just drops off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but no matter what, as a coach for me, or as a, you know, kind of a leader of a running club myself, and you're part of your running club and you founded that, and, you know, do you see that often? And what's the advice that we can give people? Because the truth is, all these years on, it still happens, and people just still past it. What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, when I did another marathon in 2018 when I wanted to do under 3:30. It bugged me for a few years. And a friend of mine that's a sub 3 hour marathon runner, he's done an Ironman. He did a training plan for me, and the training plan was bizarre. But it makes perfect sense now I've done it, that in the week, I think I was doing 3 short runs, but they were all fast. So there were hill sprints, they were tempo runs, they were sprints. And the week was spent building strength, building speeds, and trying to improve my lactic threshold.
Yeah.
And then the weekend would be a long run, but the long run was at a 135 heart rate. So it felt wrong that my long runs were all slow. But as I got fitter, my 135 heart rate, which was 9.5 minute miles, changed to 8.5 minute miles. So I was burning fat and not carbs. And the whole process felt wrong. But when he first said to me, you need to go and do a half marathon, you need to treat it like a marathon, and you need to get under 130. I went there and I felt amazing and got 125, I think. And when I actually got to the marathon, the last couple of miles were tough. It was the Edinburgh Marathon, and you know, when you turn around and you're on the coast, if you've got headwinds like we did on that day, it's horrible. And yeah, the last 2 or 3 miles, my pace drops by probably a minute a mile, but I put that down more to the weather than actually hitting a wall. And I was going for it that day. You know, that was my, I need to get under this time. It's a bit of a bugbear. And I think for me, that was a lot to do with it. It was training hard in the week, but my long runs were slower. And again, when we might come on to it, my training for an ultra last year, it was a very similar concept. And it feels wrong. You know, when you're doing a long run slow, it feels really, really wrong. And we've got a particular guy in our running club that it was only about a year and a half ago. He was a 5K runner, a guy called Rodolfo, top bloke. And then he did the Manchester Marathon last year, and he trained really well. And on the day, I'm sort of watching his splits, and he's going 10-minute mile, 10-minute mile, 10-minute mile. And I keep thinking, there's going to come a time he's going to start struggling, as most people do. And the whole 26 miles, I've never seen anything so consistent in all my life. It was incredible. So, yeah, that to me was the biggest learning, really, to train really hard, shorter distances, fast hills, and then, yeah, go slow on your long runs. And on the marathon, I suppose as well, don't get too confident. You know, so you're going to start, you're going to feel good, and if your plan is to go 8-minute miles, you're going to start thinking, I'll tell you what, I can do this in 7-minute miles. Believe me, you won't.
Yeah.
You know, it's better to start slow and go faster, in my opinion. So start slow, and if you feel good at half marathon, then speed it up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And actually, you know, some awesome advice there, and some experience for anyone who's stepping up to the sort of marathon, ultra marathon world. I think some great advice there. So